This is the Delay the Binge Podcast, a space to slow down, get curious, and explore what's underneath the habits that keep pulling at us. I'm your host, Pam Dwyer. Enjoy the show. Today, I'm joined by Michelle E. Dickinson, a resilience and burnout expert, TEDx speaker, and founder of Trifecta Mental Health LLC. Michelle's work is shaped by three powerful perspectives: her lifelong experience caring for a mother with bipolar disorder, her own journey through depression, and her role in helping organizations build more compassionate, mentally healthy cultures. She's also the creator of Resilience as a Lifestyle. It's a prevention-focused approach that integrates mental, physical, and habitual practices to support long-term well-being and sustainable performance. Michelle, welcome. I'm so glad you're here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Pam. I'm so grateful that you found me.
Me too. I can't wait to chat with you a bit. So let's start out with, for those meeting you for the first time, can you tell us a little bit about you? What led you into this work and why helping people understand stress, resilience, and agency became so important to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And
Yeah.
I feel like whenever I get asked this question, it like grounds me a little bit. So my backstory is that I grew up with a mom who had bipolar disorder. That shaped me. Anyone who has a parent that goes through something, it affects us as little ones. So that shaped my experience as a little girl and taught me my own sense of resilience, actually. But it definitely is at the heart of why I do what I do. My mom struggled a lot. I watched her in and out of hospitals. So as I got older and I felt um, grateful that I was able to hold a good job. I emerged from the situation relatively healthy. I was invited to give a TED talk about my mom. I was in an organization that was really trying to normalize the mental health narrative in the workplace to create a sense of, um, I guess, shared compassion for people with mental illness. So I gave that talk, and that really shifted things for me. It led me to write my memoir about my mom, but then ultimately always questioned, after doing the mental health advocacy work, why we were waiting to hit burnout, why we were waiting to hit depression, why were we not talking about the things we can do to preserve our well-being? Like simple things I wish I could have told my mom that would have helped her avoid maybe some of the crisis that she had. So then I just got real passionate about, let me start talking about resilience as a lifestyle and really help people understand they have agency and there's things they can be doing that can literally prevent that trajectory. So that landed me doing the work that I do. And I love helping people. Helping people is like my passion. So I feel very fortunate to have been able to help so many people.
Man, I can so relate. And I appreciate how you talk about stress as something to understand, not just something to power through. So when people hear the word resilience, they often think it means pushing harder or holding it all together. So how would you define resilience in a way that actually protects mental health instead of draining it?
Yeah, I think a lot of people look at resilience as that term that means like I bounced back from something,
Hmm.
right? I have the strength to bounce back, but instead I relate to resilience as something that we get to build every single day so that stress doesn't devour us. So we have the ability to ebb and flow with inevitably the stress that's going to show up, whether it's personal life or professional life. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to just be like, okay, I can handle this. I feel very empowered. I don't have control over everything, but I have agency over putting my own oxygen mask on so I can handle that and it doesn't take me down.
Exactly. I mean, I took care of my own mother the last 10 years of her life, and I wrote a memoir as well. So, it was hard. It was difficult for me to write about my mom, but
Yeah.
it was healing at the same time,
Yeah.
but I intentionally waited until she passed before I published it, though.
Yeah. Same. Oh my goodness. We have
Yeah.
similar stories. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was hard and cathartic and something I wanted to do. after she had passed away. So I
Yes.
can relate to that.
Yeah, because I mean, the last 10 years we had come so far. I had forgiven and we had just a totally different relationship. So I didn't want to ruin that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I can appreciate that more than you
Yeah.
know because my mom was so vulnerable and there was nothing I wanted to do to upset her. So, yeah.
Exactly. Well, you've said before that there will always be those outside stressors, but how we respond determines how well we live, right? And so, how did you come to understand that through your own lived experience? How did you discover that?
It was a matter of a lot of coaching. So I've coached over 7,500 hours of individuals from all walks of life, right?
Gosh.
So I
Yeah.
had my formula, but in reality, I needed to learn what actually would move the needle for people. And so I had the privilege of getting to support people through some really rough times. And I got to see what did help them. And I would say that the first thing I noticed is people come to the conversation waiting for their external world to change, waiting for circumstances to be different than they are and relinquishing the agency that they truly do have in the face of what's going on. So my first invitation to them is stop waiting for things to be different than they are and realize that you could be doing things for yourself now um, to help yourself feel better now. But most people don't realize that. So they sit or they power through, to your point earlier, they power through, they grind it out until they hit a wall. And I am here to say, don't do that. And don't wait for things to be perfect in order for you to take care of yourself because the people who love you are the ones that are going to get the short end of the stick of you not being at your best.
Man, my listeners need to hear that so much. We talk about that a lot. Also, I've been to like I don't know 8 years of counseling because of the way I grew up, and I had a lot of different therapists, and they all every one of them ended up because I want them to fix it, make it go away, but they all tell me that Pam, we can't undo what has been done, but we can teach you how to cope, give you these coping skills. And so that is when my eyes were opened like, "Oh, it's just not gonna instantly disappear." It's always gonna be with me. It's always gonna be a struggle and something that I, try to correct.
Right.
But just being aware of it and taking a pause, a moment to understand what your pain is. That's what we're trying to get a lot of women to understand, to slow down long enough to evaluate yourself, to be intentional about what's going on inside.
I think, we forget how good we can feel and we forget that we deserve to feel good. And I think we often are givers as women where everybody's needs comes before ourselves, but the impact of that is we get run down. The people that we love get a watered down version of us. Our joy isn't there anymore. We lose our shine. And so, I think it's really important for people to realize there's so much in it for you and everyone else if you make the time to feel good, whatever that means.
I love that so much. So, how would someone that's just listening to this, how would, I mean, you work with so many people across different environments, right? And so, what are some of the early signs of burnout or stress that people tend to miss? Like, what they're either ignoring it, or do you think they just don't realize that they're that stressed?
I think it's like a matter of numbness,
Mm.
putting your head down and plowing through, having opportunities to connect, but you're too exhausted, having opportunities to do things that you once loved, but you're not really interested. Right? Those are like telltale signs, right? Not being able to sleep because you have the constant chatter in your mind. Um, and having like no space for you, like I think those are important things. Like if you don't have the energy, if you don't feel a sense of happiness or joy, if you don't look forward to the things that you once enjoyed doing, that's when it's a really good time to take a step back and say, all right, what is it that I'm I'm doing for me. And if the inventory says nothing, or the inventory says Sunday night before going to bed for the work week, then you have to really stop and say, listen, we're not on the planet just to work and pay bills, but I think the average person just thinks, if I could just get to, vacation, if I, like the trapezing from one vacation to the next, hoping, that North Star is enough to keep them going. And I'm
Mhm.
here to say, you should be filling your cup a little bit every day, because that's going to give you the ability to run the race and not just a sprint and then burn out.
I notice a lot of times, a lot of folks, they don't realize they're just shooting for the destination, right? Like you said, the vacations or, whatever the short-term goals are. But they don't realize that if they don't pay attention, they're gonna lose themselves in the journey and getting there, and then when they get there, there's that numb thing where they're not feeling anything. I mean, they're successful, they're doing everything right, their family is amazing, all is good, but they still don't feel the joy, they don't feel anything inside, and they don't understand why.
Yeah.
And
Listen, life's happening now. We're not promised
yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah,
We're just not promised tomorrow. And and I see this all the time. Like, stress is the number one killer. Like, we know that stress has a physical and emotional impact on our health, on our bodies. And it's like, don't do that to yourself. You deserve to feel good. You deserve your vitality. You deserve longevity. You deserve to be around.
yes.
These are some basic things that, it's important to get in people's face about this, because there's no promise for tomorrow, right?
Right, and there isn't, and also just reminding them, as we are intelligent women, we know what we should be doing, but we still choose not to do it. It could be something as simple as exercising, right? We know what happens if we don't move our bodies,
Yeah.
and we don't wanna be that elderly person that is just all hunched over and can't move, but we
Yes.
still don't have either we think we don't have time. We think that, someone else is more important than our time in taking that walk or going to the gym, doing the things, and then we end up overeating, over pleasing, overworking, doing all the things that we tend to do to numb out because we're so exhausted,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
To soothe, to get
to
that
soothe.
the instant gratification that's temporary.
Mhm.
Like, to have the glass of wine. Like, I can't remember the last time I had a glass of wine by myself at home, right? Like, because I know, there were moments when that was appealing, when that was, I got to just take the edge off. I got to just relax and take a glass of wine and feel good. But the reality is, like, I know that doesn't really serve me. But in the moment, it's kind of like chocolate cake. In the moment, and in the moment, it's wonderful. But is that really going to serve you? And I think that's the tendency we have when we're overwhelmed and stressed out and not filling our bucket, that we gravitate to those instant things to quell what's missing.
Man, I couldn't wait to talk to you about the neuroscience of things because we've been really taking a deep dive into that as a community and understanding the lower brain chatter versus the frontal cortex, like the thinking part of your brain. And a lot of times that lower part where we're understanding is just a short-term fix. It wants to take care of you, but it wants to soothe you with whatever it can grab, like the chocolate cake or the glass of wine or whatever that is. It's telling you, you need to do this. You're tired and you deserve it. And this
You
goes
work for it.
offline.
Yes. Yes. The
And
reward.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. And so I mean, we teach the pause, right? However long that is for you, if you just take a moment to pull this back online, your frontal cortex, then you can reason yourself out of doing whatever that unhealthy thing is.
But I also think that, like, why wait to that moment, right? Like, I challenge the people that I coach all the time, and I say, try a couple of little micro shifts. Like, I just did a training for a law firm, and they were all women, divorce attorneys, ironically, and they all are type A, work their tails off, right?
Yeah.
So I invited them to make micro shifts. Anyone can do a micro shift, right? Like, small things, so that you don't get to the part where now you're wrestling with your brain, right?
Yeah.
But if you did little things every day, the challenge is, I promise that if you do little things every day, you're going to start to feel different. And when you start to feel different, you're going to realize, wow, by doing this, like what else is possible? So the micro shifts that I often share are having an intentional start to your day, whatever that means. It could be a 15-minute sitting, having a cup of coffee by yourself in a space that you love, to start your day on your terms, something little, right? Because if you could do that for yourself, it oftentimes creates a domino effect for the way the rest of the day goes. And then making sleep non negotiable. People say it all the time, sleep's important, sleep important. Like, sleep is the only place we go to restore ourselves so we can handle the stress. And we know the stress is waiting for us. So why not give ourselves a chance to handle it by feeling rested and recovered? So sleep, moving your body, you mentioned that. Doesn't have to be
Hmm.
long. It could be a 15-minute walk. By doing small micro shifts and measuring how you feel, it could really make a huge difference so that you're not getting yourself up against the wall where now you have to wrestle with a bad decision that your mind wants to make in the moment. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
We don't
little,
give the lower brain chatter any time to take this offline, our thinking part. If we
yeah,
do those small intentional steps. I love that. I love that so much. We talk about the plus one theory, which is what this podcast used to be called, which is you do your best plus one more in small incremental steps,
that's it.
to use pain for purpose, but to
Yeah.
think and
Yeah.
not, you're right. I never really put it like that though, where let's just avoid going there altogether.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
that a lot.
Yeah. I
So
think
if
it's palatable,
yeah, yeah.
it needs to be realistic or people will be overwhelmed easily. I noticed that from coaching. I can't ask them to boil the ocean. I just have to give them little things so that they start moving the needle in little tiny degrees. So it's like an airplane that shifts in 1 degrees and lands in a completely different place.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's a great visual there for me too. I'm so visual.
Yeah,
I
me
can
too.
even see them. So if I would like for you to talk to our listeners about failure because a lot of times they feel if they're so exhausted and they're caving to urges or binging, they feel failed. But I always tell them they're not failed. It's just your brain giving you information. And if we pay attention to it, it can actually help us move forward more wisely instead of starting over. Because we all think, oh, I've ruined this. I'm going to have to start over next week. But we're learning that no, we're going to pick up where we left off because we did all that work. And
Yeah.
what brought us to this point, we don't wanna start over.
Right.
That reeks of failure. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
So, from being an entrepreneur, I've learned you fail fast and you fail forward. If
Mhm.
you want to call it failure, whatever you want to do, whatever. So then just get up and move forward, right? Like when I was in Weight Watchers many, many years ago, there was a sign on the wall that said, if you tripped going up a stair, would you throw yourself down the entire stairwell or would you just pick yourself up and keep going? Like you'd pick yourself up and keep going. So I think the number one thing is fine, consider it. If you want to consider it failure, fine, then just fail forward and keep going. But then the other thing is we always beat ourselves up. So like, why do we have to beat ourselves up? Why not just give yourself grace? Like, would you beat up your best friend if they failed, or would you give them grace and give them encouragement and say, just try again tomorrow? Right? Like that's where self love comes. Like we're human beings and we're not always going to be perfect.
We always refer to it as speaking to a child, because, like, if I want let's use chocolate cake, we've been going there, sounds yummy, but if I wanted chocolate cake and I know it's not gonna serve me well, then I speak to myself as a child, and I say, "Okay, we can't have this right now, but tomorrow, if you still want it, we'll have a piece, but we'll plan it and we'll be in control."
Yeah, and won't be reactive, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
where it's riddled with guilt or self-assault, I think that's a really important thing to become aware of. I think the magic is always going to be in the awareness. Like you said, it gives us information, it gives us awareness to do something with it.
Mhm. And to use it, that's the big message of my memoir is that your past doesn't define you, it prepares you. And I learned how to use that pain as fuel, for purpose, to do good things with, because what else am I gonna do with it? I'm not gonna sit there and just whine about it, you know?
Right.
Just
Right.
gonna lean into it, and that's what a lot of folks call resilience, but I don't know if it's truly that or it's just that the thinking part of my brain is just like, "Okay, this is here. You're gonna have to deal with it, so let's just use it."
And it serves us. I I recently had a conversation with someone. They were like, "You're underestimating the amount of wisdom that you've accumulated." We're so quick to, I don't know, maybe judge ourselves, but if we ever take a step back and look at where we've come and what we've gone through and all the adversity we've stepped up to the plate around, it's like remarkable what we've accomplished. It's remarkable the amount of wisdom that we have that we get to bring forward with us. But we
Oh,
never
yeah.
we never do that.
I know, and I don't know why. I'm still trying to figure that out, trying to do a lot of research to see why it's almost like self-sabotage, right? We don't think we're worthy enough, or we're just too tired to think about all the things we do know. We're just trying to look at the day and the next day ahead. It's that quiet depletion again. And I'm still I catch myself all the time, trying to do all the things, check all the boxes, and I forgot that, I need to eat or I need to drink water.
Yeah.
This is just simple things that can add up over time and become an issue, especially with your health.
I also think too, though, we live in such a stimulated world where there's so much information coming at us. There's so much that we think we have to think about. There's so much noise that we know that from research, through various people that I follow, like Dr. Joe Dispenza and some of the most remarkable teachers is it's really in the silence that we connect with ourselves in a deeper way. But we're oftentimes we're too busy and we're too consumed by all the noise that we aren't making that time to connect with ourselves. So, like, I mean, it's funny because we're seekers of information as women, right? Like, we're seekers of information, we're seekers of solutions. We are always trying to help everybody else's problems, but in reality, the best way to help ourselves is to create that time where we connect with who we are and our inner voice and our higher self. But, we have to make that time to do that.
We do, and that seems to be our biggest challenge is that even the plus one theory, everyone thinks of it as, "Oh, another thing that I have to add to my day." But
Yeah.
no, it literally takes seconds or like journaling. I am a big advocate for that, but it's so hard for me to help other women see see that it's valuable, it's value, and they don't wanna take the time to do it. And I just tell them, "Okay, then if you're having trouble sleeping, we're gonna do a brain dump at night, and you're gonna write on a piece of paper everything that's in your head, and you're gonna dump it onto that page, and I promise you, you will sleep better because it's gonna be there waiting for you in the morning." And, most women that try that, that's how they get started with their journaling because then it's just no it moves from just words, word vomit, I call it, but it moves from just words into sentences and then into thoughts, and then I'm like, "Okay, now you can see patterns." 2 weeks if you do this for 2 weeks, you'll see a pattern because I don't remember what I was feeling or thinking 2 weeks ago. I don't know about you, but
Yeah.
but if I journal it, then I can analyze it.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times, I mean, I'm guilty of it too, is like having an overactive mind at night when I'm trying to sleep. It's like it impedes your ability to relax and just unwind and recharge yourself when you have all that noise going on. So, yeah.
Well, from your perspective, because I just really wanna glean everything I can from your expertise, but what helps people make those those small strengthening shifts you were talking about, instead of pushing harder or checking out when they're tired, when they're exhausted? How would you advise they do that?
So most people that come to me, I'm always asking them, I'm asking them to rate their energy, their stress, and how empowered they feel or in their life. And anyone who's listening can do this for themselves. 1 to 5. What's your energy? Well, if your energy is really low, then what's definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and hoping for something different. So if your energy is really low and your stress is really high and you're not feeling very empowered about your life, you're feeling like you're just sort of being drug around and having to respond or react to people and requests, then you have to think about, what is it that I could do differently to feel better energy, to feel like I can manage my stress, and to feel like I'm in the cockpit of my life. So when it comes to that and they see that, then they're interested in asking, what could I do differently that's going to give me more energy and that's going to help me feel like I'm not being squeezed by stress. So that opens the door for the conversation of, well, like, are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you drinking? Are you moving your body? What are your stress management skills? What do you do when you feel overwhelmed? Do you know about breath work? Do you know about visualization? Do you know about journaling? All of the things that can help you mitigate stress. Movement is really good for stress. So when you present them a menu of things that they can start to move the lever on, those 3 core items, then when they take that on, they can then self-assess after getting a 15-minute walk in 3 days this week. Are you feeling any better? The proof is in how you feel, and that's going to encourage you to continue on because you want to keep feeling better. I think the majority of people have forgotten how good they can feel. Like, I have people that come to me and go, "Oh, Michelle, but I sleep 5 hours and I feel great." And I'm like, "Really? When was the last time you got 8 hours of sleep?"
To compare it.
To compare it.
Yes.
Exactly. We're hamsters on a hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Nobody's checking in to be like, that's ludicrous. That 5 hours, like, that's not good.
Mm-mm.
So
I
that's
noticed
kind
you
of
talk a lot about joy too,
totally.
choosing
Yeah.
it. I always tell people I choose joy because it is a choice,
Yeah.
you
But,
know.
but here's the thing, Pam, you can't choose joy if you're depleted. If you're exhausted, it's so hard. So, like, you want to feel those emotions again, you got to start making sure that you're taking care of your temple, which is your body.
So so they'll if they just focus on their body, and if they don't know what to do, be curious, right? Because I am in a constant state of educating myself, learning. I call it gleaning.
Yes.
I glean all that I can from anybody that knows anything. And it really helps me be better and healthier and stronger, the more I absorb from people.
I
But you
feel
gotta
like
be curious.
you do. You have to be curious. And I think too, people think that, the mind is there to make you happy. And one of the things that I really appreciated learning, I don't remember if it was Esther Hicks or Louise Hay or Dr. Joe Dispenza, but the reality is the mind is not wired to make you happy. It's wired to protect you. So most people are focusing on their problems because the mind is out to protect you. So it's organic that we would wake up and start thinking about all the things we have to do and all the things we're worried about. But every time we dwell on that, we feel that throughout our bodies. And then that leads to us not feeling so great.
Yeah,
So if you could remember that the mind isn't wired to make you happy and realize you have to do something different if you want to feel happy, and you have agency back. And so one of the ways to do that is focusing on the gratitude. Like, people say, oh, gratitude. Like, no, I'm not even kidding. Gratitude is the thing that can refocus you to see the good stuff, which is in return of that, you're going to feel good. And if the name of the game is to feel good, you bet your bottom dollar you should be thinking about things you're grateful for.
definitely. And there's so much. People don't realize how much they have to be grateful for. And you're right, the brain, it develops patterns, right? And if the pattern is just every day getting done resolving problems, issues, then that's what it's gonna do every single day. It does take work and effort to create new patterns, though,
It does.
and
And
discipline.
and whatever you focus on is always gonna expand. It's kinda like if you know that little, you know, ant hill that turns into the mountain, and
Yeah.
it's because your attention is on the ant hill, you know? So if you notice, "Oh, I'm doing that thing where all I'm doing is thinking about every freaking thing that's wrong." All right, Michelle said, "I have to think about 3 things I'm grateful for." If you redirect it and sit in that gratitude, in that, rampage of appreciation, um, it feels so good, and it gets your mind to blow up something positive and feel good in that moment. So redirect your thoughts. You have the power to do that.
Right, the pause, that's what I'm really big into, is just taking a moment. It doesn't have to be all day, it can just be literally 30 seconds just to remember what you're grateful for. I love that so much. Well, so I wanted to go back since we had this in common about the memoir. Your book, it's called, Breaking
Breaking.
Into My Life,
Yeah.
right? Uh,
Yes.
I haven't read it yet, but I do want to read it because it sounds amazing. So, when you were writing it, I just wanna compare it to my own feelings.
Yeah.
How did that story, shape you, um, and how you understand resilience and healing? Did it completely change your outlook on that?
You know, it's interesting because when I sat down to write this memoir, I thought, I'm just going to tell the story of my mom. It's no big deal. It's very factual, right? Like this happened, then that happened, then this happened. But then I had the fortune of working with a writing coach who was like, "Oh no, Michelle, you have to bring the reader along and you have to really create an experience for them. So that means you have to really relive those moments." Which made it even more painful and challenging. It took me 4 years to write that book because I had to literally relive every one of those experiences.
Yes.
So it was hard, and at the end of the day, after I got through all the emotional writing, I wrote an epilogue at the back of the book because I had come to realize how every experience serves me. But you can't get there immediately. You have to get there by going through that.
Yes, and just
Mm.
understanding your pain, you
Yes.
know, I had healed a lot, so going back to the brokenness of all of it, it
Yes.
was really difficult for me too. It was hard, but I'm
Yeah.
so glad I did it. I'm
Yeah.
so glad,
Same.
and it's helping a lot of people. I thought I was one of few that went through this horrible childhood type situation, but
Mm-mm.
I am one of many, and they're all
And you gave them a voice, or
yes.
because when they read your story, they're like, "That's my story."
"Hey, I see me in that," and so
Yes.
I never thought I'd be a writer, to be honest with you, but
Same.
I love it so much, I'm obsessed with it, so I like writing anything.
I love that. That's great. No, I mean, even if you help, someone once said to me, "Michelle, even if you only helped like a few people with your story, it's all been worth it." And I agree. I totally agree. But to this day, I still hear from people. And I released my book in 2018. So I still hear from people. And that just warms my heart that I could make a
Yes,
difference and give their story a voice.
and some yes, I heard writer one author say, my story gave them legs."
Yes.
I
Yes.
thought, "Oh, can we you mean movement, or what do you mean?" So this is my final question for you.
Okay.
If someone listening feels depleted or quietly depleted, still functioning, still showing up, still checking the boxes, what would you want them to hear right now about resilience, healing, and how to continue moving forward?
You don't have to wait to hit a wall. And if that's the trajectory, you have to ask yourself, what's the probable, almost certain future if you were to do absolutely nothing? And this is how you feel today. Like you will hit a wall. And give yourself the grace and the honor that you deserve by taking a step back and saying, what could I be doing differently so I don't hit that wall? You deserve that.
That is my most favorite takeaway from this conversation. So First of all, thank you. And can you tell us how to find you, where we need to go to buy your book or just visit your website, which, by the way, is lovely. I looked at it,
Thank
your new
you.
one.
Thank you. Yeah, so my second home is LinkedIn. You can always find me there. But my website is Resilience as a Lifestyle, and I'm on all the socials. Not as active on the socials as I used to be. Life is busy. So,
Yes.
but you can always hit me up on LinkedIn through message or on my website. And I'm always looking to talk to people, help people, whatever they need.
That is wonderful. And I'll be sure, everybody, to list all of that in the show notes. So don't worry about jotting it down. We'll have it for you. Michelle, thank you so much. This conversation felt grounded and honest and, well, just human, deeply human. One of the biggest takeaways for me is the reminder that burnout isn't failure and that let's not wait until we hit a wall. So when we pause long enough to listen, we don't have to start over. We can keep moving forward with more wisdom and self-awareness and more compassion than before. Thank you for the work you do and for sharing your story so generously today.
Thank you for having me, Pam.
You're so welcome. And everyone, before I go, you can find Michelle and her work, including her book, Breaking Into My Life, in the show notes below. I encourage you to explore her resources if today's conversation resonated at all, and I'm sure it has. If you're listening and realizing that you're more tired than you've admitted, let that be information, not judgment. Sometimes a pause is the most powerful next step we have. Thank you for spending this time with us, and I'll see you next time on Delay the Binge Podcast.